Peace and blessings to everyone out there. This is Misal Bay, and we're going in on another episode of Raw Talk. I'm gonna get back to the lessons from the Ivory Tablets. So just wanted to talk about a couple of things, basically, that was on my mind. I know this is definitely a time of uncertainty for many, um, and I believe in the destiny of humanity, and that through these things we learn things about ourselves as a race and that one mind of human consciousness. You know what I'm saying? On the American side, I would definitely have to say that, I do think that the way our government is heading is definitely on a level that was different to how it was founded for many different reasons. Some things that never got resolved that should have, greed, corporate power, and different things of that nature, the attack of Operation Paperclip, all these things have a lot to do in shaping and structuring where we're at today as a nation. One of the things that I would say is that when you look at United States struggle against communist countries, let's just take a look at that for 1 second and really analyze what that means, because there may be some things going on that the public generally is not familiar about that it would be good for us to consider. One of the things that I do, take, heed upon is looking at social media. Social media as a construct. A lot of people spend a lot of their lives on social media. I would say that at this stage now, a person who is 30 and under, I would say 40 and under, that's a safe number, may spend anywhere from 50 to 70% of their lives on social media. Now, this raises an issue because who are you really dedicated to? Who are you really a citizen of? If we look at the United States struggle against communist nations, for example, let's just say that something was built where we can influence other nations through technology, influence the people of those nations, and cause the economic development of a country to go down. Let's just call it social media. So now you're on social media and you feel like you want to create some attention to yourself. You want to bring attention to yourself, or maybe your cause, or maybe you're trying to promote a product. And social media is a good way to reach massive amounts of people. A lot of people nowadays may look at things occurring in social media long before they will look at the news. Okay. That being said, once that chamber of social media now becomes a household item, now becomes an item that's pocketed into everybody's cell phones, now becomes a way to investigate public opinion by just clicking on and seeing what people are saying about a certain news event or whatever. That power could be utilized in several different ways, but ultimately it also means that everyone is living in two different forms of government, one virtual and one that's a reality. And in different nations, like in China and other countries, they own the people's data. The data is owned by the government. So if you say something on social media, and you live in one of these countries, you may have someone knocking on your door. But differently in the United States, the citizens, they supposedly own their own data. And the problem here is that the United States, although it's to protect the citizens and its property, it does not protect its data, which means that now the data can be influenced by other nations to get, and they can also influence people by manipulating the data, by putting certain things out. So while you may have the freedom of speech, you can't necessarily say certain things on social media. right? And in some ways, it infringes upon your constitutional right as far as freedom of speech. Now, here's the interesting thing about all of this, to bring it around to the dynamic of what we are talking about in this theme, or what's in the title of this video. A lot of these companies that have invented or that own these social media platforms have huge contracts with communist countries, huge contracts with countries that are not necessarily friends of the United States. So if these countries, if the owners of these companies, of these social media platforms, if their contracts are bigger overseas, who are they going to cater to? So now certain information about politicians may be restricted from Twitter, may be restricted from Instagram or Facebook, because it doesn't favor the political yearnings or outcomes that other nations who are trying to perpetrate the United States would like to see. So if you have some information that could probably change someone's vote or what have you, and you post it up on Twitter and it gets, blocked because it's, said not to come from a factual source, and it really is coming from a factual source, then you can consider a lot of these platforms to be compromised, and this is how America is now turning to communism, because while you may have freedoms in day-to-day life that, are protected by the Constitution, those companies that you're spending 50% to 70% of your time are not necessarily abiding by your constitutional right. Which means one or two things, and since the United States is not protecting the data of its citizenry, perhaps, you may entertain doing some things on these social media platforms. However, I would highly suggest that you find another avenue to communicate through if they're going to be censoring material of United States citizens. You know what I'm saying? It might even be better to have a platform that, caters to the climate over here, where people can fairly speak about, issues and things that they want to talk about, rather than putting it on something that is owned by someone who has a commercial interest, and that interest allows communist countries to influence what is said on that medium. Because at that point, you have to adhere and abide by the rules of another government. And this is how social media is leading Americans into communism. Okay. So, it's a discussion to talk about. This is part one. I'm definitely going to spark up some things in part two. But I just wanted to give y'all a little bit of a taste of, some of the observations that I have made, especially in light of the recent election. However anyone voted, people have a right to choose what they have to choose. But I would have to say, for this election, it was a huge fiasco on both sides of the coin in a lot of different ways. However, one of the things that was not being seen was the infiltration by foreign nations into U.S. policy through the use of social media. This is me, Sal Bay, aka Warlock Asylum, and we'll be continuing this conversation in the future. Have a great day.